This is a video about the skills I used to create the film poster for my practical. This is our final piece, as you can see, but if you look on my blog, I've done a post on the progression of both of our film poster and the magazine front cover, but this is the final one, so I'll talk you through how we eventually got there. So first and foremost, we have the title of our film underhand, and there is actually two layers to this, but they're merged right now. So if I move it, it moves as there you go, moves as one. But we decided to make this sort of reflection, sort of shadow of it, because there's a sort of running colour scheme throughout all of our practicals of sort of black and white. If you look at our magazine front cover, you can see it's very black and white, but the text is also a lighter shade. So the text in our front cover magazine is very similar, to sort of keep that familiarity throughout it all. It's also, sort of connotes the black and white is like a sort of pastiche to or homage to the classical noir era. We got the sort of see-throughness of the lower underhand by just playing around with the opacity and the fill. Obviously, if I do it now, it should. There you go. It will change colour, and then the fill will obviously, it will do the outline of the text. Secondly, we have our smoke layer, which is this one here, and the smoke in the original photo was quite weak. It wasn't quite strong enough, so we had to go in after taking the photo. Post photo, we went and got a picture of smoke. We erased all the where's the erase? I think it's this one here. We erased all of the background sort of images of that, so we were only left with what we wanted. We then put a layer mask over it, so that only the smoke you see is in the actual photo. The smoke again is a sort of running theme throughout all of our tasks, but sort of mainly in both the ancillary tasks of the front cover and the poster. If you look at our magazine front cover, you'll see our director is smoking a cigarette, quite similarly to this. So that was the smoke. We then have our credit block. Specifically in cinemas March 26th. This is quite simply done by just going to the text tool here, as you see there, picking your font, picking the size of it, picking how, if you want it bold or italic or anything like that, and implementing it in like that. There is another blog post on the conventions of a film poster explaining why everything is the way it is and where it is. Obviously this is just about how we did it. So we changed the size, we said centered it so it's directly in the middle, and put it right at the bottom. For the actual credit block, the open road presents, I think it's all this stuff here is all that layer there. This was found by what I did is we downloaded a font, installed it into Photoshop, and we then obviously picked the font on Photoshop, typed this all up. We had a template of where everything should be, so that was really helpful in making sure it all looked professional and like it would do. The writing was originally black, but it blended into the background. It didn't really stand out, so you couldn't actually see anything that was going on. So we changed it to white, and as you can see now, it's much more effective. It stands out a lot more. Down here, you've got our main actor, Josh Clark, and me. This is Ross, and this is Joe down here, the son, James, and for me, we actually had to take a screenshot of our preliminary task. This is in a separate document. We then erased everything around it, so it was just me, and then we went and zoomed in even further and used the eraser tool to remove everything else as well, just freehand. We then changed the opacity of both of them. There's me. So right now it's on 56. Obviously, if you bring it up even more, there I am, front and centre. But we decided to sort of drop it down a little bit more because when I'm not opaque at all, my hand blocks out some of the credits, and you couldn't really read what was going on. Also, it detracts from the main features of the film poster right here: the cigarette, the hand, the back, the face in the background, and it sort of makes me the main focus. Whereas really, sort of, you want your attention pulled in this direction. And then Joe is a similar process. We took a picture of him, erased the background. We took a picture of him on a background that was the same colour. So when we erased the colour, we simultaneously erased everything of that colour around him. So it was much more easier to get a clean cut of him. We then zoomed in and took out any sort of blemishes and anything like that didn't look great. The idea was to have Joe looking up at his father, as you can see there, and I think it works quite well in terms of the symbolism involved in that. And that was how we did Joe. We then move on to the femme fatale in the background. We basically just took a picture of her, had her hand in the foreground, and then implemented that in. But the tip of the cigarette here didn't look, it didn't stand out enough, and we didn't even really know what she was holding. So what we had to do was we duplicated the layer, so there was 2 layers of the photo, so everything stood out a bit more. We then erased everything around the cigarette tip, so we were just left with the duplicated cigarette tip. As you can see now, it stands out a lot more, and it's quite clear as to what she's holding. And then we have the cityscape in the background, and this is a picture that I actually took. We wanted to have the city in the background, as it's the city is a key convention of noir and neo-noir. But we didn't have a photo. We didn't manage to get around to taking a photo of the city whilst we were filming. So I suggested we use one that I've taken before, and luckily it worked quite well. It's quite a big city. It's San Francisco, so the buildings work quite well in terms of putting across the landscape and the establishment of where this film takes place. Obviously that appeals to our target audience as well, probably living in big cities, urbanised areas, so that's great. We originally, with the smoke here, we originally had, instead of smoke sort of trailing off of it, we had a smoke ring that was almost like it was being blown out, but it looked a bit cheesy, it sort of looked a bit over the top, and we decided against it in the end. And initially it wasn't black and white, it was all colour, but then we decided to keep the familiarity and the sort of the running narrative, the ability to sort of have that transmedia navigation throughout all of our pieces. We made it black and white. This was simply done by going to image, and then, where are we? Colour badge, black and white, there you go. And that was done simply by that. Then we move on to the actors' names. These were again simply done by just going to the text tool, picking the font, getting the right size for you, and then centering it all. As you can see, they work quite well. If you see in my blog post about the older drafts, we initially had about, I think it was 5 or 6 names across the top, but it really took away from the centre focus here and everything down here, and also blocked out quite a lot of the eyes of the femme fatale, and so it didn't work that well. The Can Deception Be the Way to Truth is done pretty much exactly the same. Just pick the font you want. It's a trial and error process of what works best, and then that's how we did that.